The baby had been born during the attack. That was the detail that broke even the hardest men in Jefferson County. A full-term infant girl, delivered into the world by her mother's broken body, and then beaten to death with a baseball bat. Her tiny frame lay next to Elaine Dardeen in the blood-soaked bed, the walls silent, the light still on, as if no one had noticed the family had ceased to exist. It was November 1987, and the trailer outside Ina, Illinois, sat still and undisturbed for hours before anyone realized something was wrong. Elaine, nearly 9 months pregnant, hadn't shown up for her shift at the water treatment plant. Her co-workers immediately knew it wasn't like her. Her husband, Keith, hadn't arrived at work either. Their 2-year-old son, Peter, hadn't been dropped off at daycare. Calls went unanswered. When sheriff's deputies arrived at the Dardeens' small white trailer, the doors were locked. The porch light was still on. Inside, the scene they discovered was unlike anything the county had ever seen. Elaine was curled on her side on the bed, bound and gagged with duct tape, her face barely recognizable from the beating. Peter, the toddler, had been bludgeoned as well, tucked under the covers in his bed afterward, as if put to sleep. And beside Elaine was the newborn baby girl, her skull crushed with the same bat. The weapon, a Louisville slugger, had belonged to Keith. He used it in church softball games. Now it was coated in his family's blood. But Keith himself was missing. The search expanded into the fields surrounding the trailer. That night, just over a mile from home, Keith's body was found in a wheat field near Rend Lake. He had been shot 3 times, and his throat was slit so deeply it nearly decapitated him. His car was nearby, abandoned. There were no signs of struggle, no sign of robbery, no forced entry, nothing taken, just a family erased. Theories flooded the quiet community like rising water. A satanic cult, a vagrant passing through, a deal gone wrong. But there were no leads, no arrests, no motive. Fear took hold. Residents began double-locking doors. Gun sales surged. Ina, already a quiet town, became silent with suspicion. The Dardeens had been a devout, peaceful family. Keith played guitar in church. Elaine sang in the choir. They didn't drink, didn't fight, didn't owe anyone. And yet, someone had entered their home and carried out a massacre of ritualistic cruelty, and left behind no clues. The horror only deepened when 2 years later, hundreds of miles away, a drifter named Tommy Lynn Sells was arrested in Texas for a separate, brutal killing. While in custody, he began confessing to a trail of murders across the country. One of them, he claimed, was the Dardeen family. He said Keith had picked him up hitchhiking, invited him to dinner, offered him a place to stay the night. Sells said he interpreted that as a sexual advance, and when Keith later asked him to leave, Sells exploded. He claimed he shot Keith first, then drove to the trailer and murdered Elaine and the children to eliminate witnesses. He described details that hadn't been made public. The location of the bodies, the weapon, the layout of the home. Everything matched, but there was no DNA, no fingerprints, no physical evidence tying Sells to the crime. And he was known to lie, to take credit for murders he hadn't committed, exaggerate his role in others, and distort timelines. Some investigators believed him. Others weren't so sure. To this day, the Dardeen murders remain officially unsolved. No trial, no conviction. Just an enduring silence across southern Illinois, and a lingering fear that someone capable of such destruction once walked freely among them. Keith and Elaine had planned to move. They'd even listed the trailer for sale. They were afraid. There'd been recent violence nearby, and Keith had told his mother they couldn't raise children in a place like that. He promised they'd be gone by Christmas. They didn't make it to Thanksgiving. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. If you enjoyed this true story, join us next time, if you dare.